Hi everyone, so I made it to church today, and today was the Solemnity of St. John the Baptist. Father Frank was there, and Father Frank is an Italian priest. I really enjoyed listening to his homily, and his homily was about how a prophet or a seer, somebody who could see into the future, can look at things now and see how things will be in the future. And our readings today were all on St. John the Baptist. I was reading on EWTN that we only celebrate the birth, or the nativity, I should say, of three people in our traditions in the church: Jesus, St. John the Baptist, and there's one more, I can't remember, but it's on EWTN if you want to look it up. So it's a good way to think about our own lives, our relationships with our cousins, and how they impact our lives, and what a joy it is to have cousins in our lives, and to celebrate their birth when God does the impossible and God brings about the fulfillment of prophecy. When people think things cannot happen, things are impossible, just like with Elizabeth, they did not think that in her old age she would be able to have a child, but she did, and she chose a name that was against their tradition. She chose a name outside of how the child would normally be named, and she broke with tradition. So you find women and men in the Bible, often they're bringing the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law to the front. And in many ways, that's what we do. I think in many traditional societies, the images of women and what we are there for, or what people should be allowed to do with us, we break those traditions. Many traditional societies, or many old-fashioned societies, do not see anything wrong with child marriage, with children being sold into slavery, with their eyes being torn out, or having acid poured into them, or having sex workers. You'll hear from many women, especially women that come from India, about how their friends were sex workers, or they died in the process of being a sex worker. And they're not fighting like me to end the sex trade. They're fighting for those men and women to have what they call working rights in the sex trade. But for me, I didn't grow up in that traditional background and that old-fashioned background. I grew up a modern woman. I grew up where if a woman and a man are interested in each other, they make a commitment to each other, they get married, and they live their lives together. I grew up in a society where if a man said he wanted to be your friend, my grandparents would have that guy put in jail rather than tarnish my reputation. Because especially if it's a married man, in my family, in my grandparents' family, we did not accept that. And I certainly don't think my dad would have accepted that, not for me. And, for me, it's very upsetting when I come into a culture where things that we fought for years and years and years against, you see these things happening in America, of all places. If it's in India, you kind of expect it because they come from that kind of old-fashioned background where the women get sent into ashrams, they get treated like prostitutes once their husbands die. They're just there to service the men. They don't do that to the men, but now it's changing. Now the men are also being treated that way. So even in South Africa now, there's this big push to have sex workers. And many of us are like, why would cultures want to go back to such a backward way of living? It's really backwards. Even if you watch all the documentaries that are out now on YouTube, there are many documentaries out about how fascism is rising and the gay culture and all of the things that people like Mussolini and Hitler and all of them supported. All these experimentations on children, on women, all the things that they did, they're now starting them again. at one point there was this big push about how sex can lead to healing. So in the psychology world and in the psychiatrist world, they used to encourage sex with the children in the communist tradition. And they did all kinds of weird experimentations on children. Very strange things. So anyway, that's me. I'm not like that. I don't come from that very dark culture where people are encouraged to be friends with people who are already in relationships. They're already married. And it's not something I want for myself. If I get married to somebody, I want a commitment. I want them to be faithful to me. And I believe in one man, one woman marriage. I don't believe in even what the church is doing now, where they're bringing in this, where there may be what they're calling divergent relationships, or relationships that are not in the norm. Because we fought for years and years and years to have that, to have basic standards of education, to have everybody treated with dignity and respect. And even with the One campaign, it's a global campaign. I mean, I'm not black. I didn't join it because it was only focused on blacks. There are many Indians in Africa, there are many whites, there are many people of mixed race. I'm not just doing it for the black people, I'm doing it for everybody, including my friends who are still in Africa. And I've never been that kind of a person. Even when I chose to go to WITS, I chose to go to WITS University because they focused on racial equality for everybody, not just for the whites, not just for the blacks. They focused on having certain standards put in place. So I think it's important for me to remember my values, and also for us as Christians to be seers, to be prophets, to be people who can look at things now and see what could come in the future. Because you can say, oh, we have to build a culture of tolerance, but tolerance to what extreme? To what level? Are we going to start saying it's okay for a man to demand to have you as his sidekick, somebody there at his beck and call when he wants you to have sex with? Because it matters. To me, it matters. I've kept my standards high, and I just ask God to open the right opportunities for me and to help me, because being a sex worker is not something I want in my life. Being a prostitute, it's not something I want in my life. And there are women who fight for it, not only here, but in other places in the world. I remember when my friend came from South Africa, one of my friends, I took her, because when I came to Canada, I was shocked, because Regis College, where it was situated at the time, at 15 St. Mary Street, that area was filled with sex bars and sex trade, and I got a shock when I came to Canada. And I said to her, let's go. I said, I want to show you. And she's like, really? This is like in the middle of the city? I said, yeah. She said to me, I know we have brothels and all that, but we don't have them like in the middle of the city. I said, yeah, this is Canada. So it was a big culture shock for me coming here from England. But I've tried to keep my standards high. When I dress well. My clothes might be shabby, they might be old, but they are nice clothes. And you know, it's interesting when you look at societies, you look at organizations. I'm fighting for things that people fought for a long, long time ago. All those things are coming back. An end to child marriage, education for women, healthcare for women, protection of the child and the child's rights, protection against euthanasia. All those things that people fought for years and years and years, they're all coming back now. So it was nice to go to church today, because I also spoke to one of my South African friends, and she was telling me about how she also went through the same thing, where you think you've got a job and you're settled and you're happy and you're praising God and thanking God that you've got this opportunity. and then the next thing you get called into the office to say, oh, there's no job for you, or oh, we lost a client, we're not keeping you, or they call you at home on a Saturday and say, oh, don't go in on Monday. I've had all those experiences here in Canada. And I hope with the next role I get, Father Larry and I are praying that the next role I get, I'll be able to go there and just stay there and complete my career there. Because what I wanted is what many people have had in their lives. They've gone into a company and they've worked in that company for their whole life. They've had opportunities to take on different roles, to grow with the company, to get good salary increases, to travel. Those are all the things I wanted for myself. And they didn't work out that way. And now I'm disabled. And I had to accept that because my health is not what it used to be. Sure, I manage it with my doctor, but I can't handle too much pressure anymore. I can't handle the 3-hour commutes that I used to do before. So I'm trying to find something closer to home, something with less pressure, where I can use my skills and talents. And who knows where God is going to open that door? Who knows what God's will is for me? But we fight to protect our lives, and that's what I am doing. Because this is my life. It's not anybody else's life. It's not any member of my family's life. It's my life. And so if women want to go and become sex workers and spoil their lives and spoil their bodies and humiliate themselves, I'm not going to tell them what to do, because when I do, I get into trouble for it. But don't impose those values on me, because I know my dignity, I know my worth, and I'm not willing to accept that kind of a thing in my life. It's not what I want. And I've had the same kind of discussions with many women, both inside and outside my family, of how they don't have a problem with organs being sold, with women taking money to have babies. I have a problem with it. So we don't agree. That's fine. In this world of Canada, you have to so-called be tolerant. Our tolerance is leading to 10 cities. It's leading to walking zombies filled with drugs walking our streets. It's leading to an increase in crime. So if that's what people want, that's not what I want. And I'm standing by my principles and my values and what I want for my life, and it's definitely not to be a sex worker. I've worked too hard, I've come too far to be somebody's concubine, to be somebody's friend when they married, newly married in a relationship. I don't want those things for my life. We had family friends, yes, in Zimbabwe. People came over in family gatherings and everybody was there. We sat together, we ate together, we danced together. That's fine with me. And yes, this is not Zimbabwe, but I can keep my values and I can see into the future just like everybody else. It's all there on YouTube. You just have to go and watch. There's lots of documentaries of how Canada is a failed society now because they pushed for all this. They pushed for the drugs, they pushed for the sex work, they pushed for everything, euthanasia, and very few people wanted it. So people can choose. It might be a hard journey for me. I might have lost my health in the process for sticking to my values. But at the end of the day, my soul is my own soul. And I'm responsible for my soul. And everybody else is responsible for their soul.